Hello there, welcome to part 8 of my Clone Wars analysis series. In today's video, we will be examining Bombad Jedi, Season 1, Episode 8. The goal of this series is to unpack the Clone Wars animated show and look closely at its themes, characters, and politics. As always, there will be spoilers as we are covering the entire episode and series. That said, let's jump into it. Bombad Jedi takes the audience to Rhodia, an Outer Rim planet home to the Rhodians, made famous by Greedo in A New Hope. The opening narration explains that because of the Clone War, the Republic's unity is being destabilized as more systems join the Separatist cause. The episode focuses on Padme Amidala, Senator of Naboo, as she goes to Rhodia to secure its loyalty to the Republic. She goes alongside Jar Jar Binks and C-3PO, who are an unusual combination for mischief. Jar Jar gives the episode its title, as when Padme is in danger, he puts on Jedi robes and tries to save her. The opening quote for the episode is, "Heroes are made by the times." Broadly speaking, because of the Clone War itself, many heroes are being molded. Specifically for this episode, I think the opening quote works well with what Padme says at the end, that our most important allies are not the most powerful. C-3PO is a relatively helpless protocol droid, and Jar Jar is a clumsy Gungan who causes trouble, but they're the heroes of the episode. Furthermore, Padme is an ally to Rhodia, and she doesn't have the power of a Jedi like the other main Star Wars characters, but her faith in diplomacy and compassion for other systems makes her an incredibly important ally to Rhodia and character overall. The episode opens with Padme on her way to Rhodia, and she has a transmission from Palpatine who's concerned for her safety as Rhodia is in enemy territory in the Outer Rim. He thinks Padme should have a clone escort. On surface level, this is because she's a senator, and as Chancellor, he'd want his political figures to be safe. However, I'm fairly certain Palpatine is aware of Anakin's feelings for Padme and wants to use her as leverage for manipulating Anakin into getting his way. We saw this in the Malevolence arc as Palpatine sent Padme to the Dreadnought as a hostage so he could get away from Anakin, and ultimately we will see the culmination of this in Revenge of the Sith. On the topic of her safety and a clone escort, Padme doesn't care. She puts her faith in diplomacy and tells Palpatine that we can't solve all of her problems by throwing troops at them. While her husband fights on the battlefield, Padme is a senator with a different approach to the war. It is worth noting that in the scene, Padme tells Palpatine that Senator Anaconda Farr specifically requested Padme's help. Padme and the audience at this point are to believe that it's because Padme and Senator Farr are friends, but as we will learn, Farr is siding with Gunray and Gunray wants Padme dead, so Anaconda is blatantly setting up a trap for her. Jar Jar in his clumsiness messes with the course of the ship and Palpatine throws shade at him, and basically says he's not qualified for the political negotiations. I don't think the scene means too much at face value, but it is interesting, as is Jar Jar who got Palpatine his supreme powers in the first place. However, it also serves as a counterpart to the ending scene where Palpatine congratulates Jar Jar on saving the day, showing a slight bit of change of attitude. Also because of Jar Jar's incident on the ship, Padme wants him to stay with the ship after they land so he doesn't get in the way. We then meet Senator Anaconda Farr, who is an old friend of Padme. Padme explains that he was an ally to her father in the Galactic Senate, which means Padme's father was a senator before her. With this in mind, it's easy to assume that Senator Farr is a political mentor for Padme in a way. Padme's exposition on their friendship is juxtaposed by Farr's hostility. He doesn't see the friendship she speaks of, as the Republic has ignored Rhodia, and their supply ships have been raided by pirates, leaving the people to starve. Padme stresses that the Republic Senate, despite delays, will help Rhodia. However, politics are too slow for Farr, and he wants to help his people, so he has turned to Nute Gunray for help. His turn to the Separatists and betrayal of Padme are mainly out of the want to help his people. He's not necessarily an evil or immoral character, but he's decided to do immoral things for a moral end. Anaconda has set a trap for Padme and battle droids capture her. The fact that Nute Gunray is in this episode and not another Separatist leader is significant, as Gunray is the main antagonist of Padme. He tried to overtake Naboo while she was queen, and clearly had intentions to silence her based off his dialogue in Attack of the Clones. As we see throughout this episode, Gunray has no interest in helping Rhodia, and is simply using Anaconda Farr to capture and kill Padme out of revenge. Ano tells Padme that he had no choice in making this decision, and Padme says there's always a choice. To live in fear is no life at all. It's very in character, as Padme had no desire to live in fear as queen during the invasion of Naboo and fought back. Jar Jar and C-3PO have some shenanigans throughout the episode. It's somewhat interesting as C-3PO has a tendency to be in bad situations that he has no desire to be in, and Jar Jar is always creating bad situations, so combining them makes a good dynamic. One of the funniest lines in the episode is when Jar Jar falls off a cliff with a crab droid, and 3PO, thinking he's dead, says, "It was all my fault," in his typical self-pity. Also, Jar Jar crushes their ship, which means they can't escape her call for help. They find Jedi robes in the closet of Padme's ship, and Jar Jar doesn't know who they belong to, but I think with the tonality of 3PO's voice, 3PO might actually know that they belong to Anakin, and it would make much sense as he was present at their wedding. Jar Jar wears the robes and wants to rescue Padme, who's been taken to the prison tower. The episode plays on medieval fantasy archetypes. Padme is obviously the princess as she is locked away in the tower. Gunray is the evil king who wants the princess, and in this case, to kill her. There's a swamp monster under Rhodia who's symbolic of a dragon, and Jar Jar is like the court jester, but once he puts on the Jedi robes, he appears as the Shining Knight. Padme may be the princess archetype, but she isn't helpless like your traditional princess. She's resourceful and gets the handcuffs off no problem, just like how she did on Geonosis. She escapes her cell and takes out multiple battle droids, no problem. In my opinion, 3PO is the best comedy of this episode, and there are a few callbacks to the films which give it that Star Wars feeling. As he's being taken by the battle droids, he tries to tell them that he's fluent in over 6 million forms of communication, but he's cut off before he can finish the phrase, which happens all of the time in the original trilogy. At another point, he's about to be captured by more droids, but tells them that the Jedi was spotted in another hallway, which is similar to A New Hope, when he tells stormtroopers that Luke and Han were spotted in another area, and if they hurry, they can be caught. This parallel is even cooler when you realize that in both instances, a princess archetype is being rescued from the prison area. Gunray doesn't help Rhodia with supplies and doesn't seem to care. He tells Anna that he will only take supplies into consideration at all after he executes Padme, which makes Anna realize his mistake and shows that Gunray played Rhodia all along. Gunray is a very cowardly character, and this trait is demonstrated when he freaks out when he thinks Jar Jar is a Jedi. Jar Jar uses the swamp monster, the symbolic dragon, to destroy a lot of the droids and help save Padme. After realizing siding with the Separatists was a mistake, Anno raises his blaster at Gunray and sides with Padme and the Republic. Palpatine, who was at the beginning of the episode, returns at the end as a hologram and praises their work and promises to send supplies to Rhodia. Bombad Jedi starts a story arc that goes through the next 2 episodes, but is a bit different to a traditional Clone Wars arcs, which usually carry the same characters and similar themes between episodes. This one has Padme and Jar Jar, the next one has Luminara and Ahsoka, and the final one has Kit Fisto. They're all very different in terms of appearance. The common thread between the next 2 episodes is Gunray, but outside of that, they're very different in terms of characters and ideas. At the end of this episode, Palpatine expresses happiness over Gunray's capture and how it's a victory for the Republic. But in the next episode, it's juxtaposed by Sidious, because Sidious contacts Dooku and speaks to how Gunray's capture is a major loss for their cause. The notion that Palpatine is truly playing both sides comes out in these 2 episodes.